Well, hello, welcome again to our reading of the Greek New Testament. We're reading Luke's Gospel, chapter 16, and we're up to verse 19. This is this famous pericope on Lazarus and the rich man, and it's purely Lucan material. It's not in any of the other Gospels. Anthropos tetis en plusios. There was a certain wealthy man. Kai en didusketo, porphyron kai buson, euphronomenos kathemeran lampros. Now this is a very interesting word here. It's a late word, and it seems to have been sort of retrofitted in some sense. The normal word for putting on is enduo, which is probably the word that you've seen and know, enduo. Now many very old Greek verbs coming from Indo-European, they have what is called a reduplicated present, and you see lots of these verbs turning up in Greek. For example, tithemi is a reduplicated present. Tithemi, and that's the reduplication of the root, which is the theta here, gets reduplicated. Didomi is another one that behaves like this, and there are lots of examples of these. Didasco, lots of these ones that have this so-called reduplicated present. Now, although this is a late verb, they've retrofitted it in some way. They've reconstructed backwards and formed a new verb by taking the root here, the do. They've then taken a reduplicated present. We've got the n as a prefix as well, reduplicated present. So they add di on it, and then they put this iterative sk suffix, and then form a new verb, and then they've added on the n. So you get this new verb en didusco, which is etymologically fascinating, because at first glance it looks like one of these old verbs, but in fact it's not. It's a late verb that they have simply retrofitted back, as it were, in the formation of it. Anyway, it means to put on, and it's an imperfect here. So he used to put on porphyron, that's purple, which of course only the wealthy had. These were dyed from the murex, which was very, very expensive dye, and only the wealthy, and in fact generally emperors and so on, wore this porphyron. So he used to wear purple, and buson is fine linen. Euphronomenos, making glad his mind, so celebrating. Kathemeran daily, and lampros, an adverb here, probably something like splendidly. So he used to put on purple clothing and fine linen, enjoying himself daily splendidly. Ptokos de, but tis ptokos, a certain poor man. Ptokos, it means poor. It's connected with the verb ptoso, which is to crouch or to cower, to crouch down or cower. Ptoso is the verb, and ptokos is someone we often say is down and out. That's the original sense of this. So there was a certain poor man, Lazarus by name, epebleto. Now there's a nice example of a pluperfect passive from ballo. So you've got the reduplication, then the augment, and then there's your ending. So it's literally had been cast, had been thrown down at the gate, the poulon autou of him. That's referring back to the wealthy man. So we might just take this perhaps who had collapsed at the gate, at his gate. That's the gate of the wealthy man. Hel komenos, this is from hel ko, if you're looking this up. This is the perfect passive participle here. Helkos, it's a third declension neuter noun, means a saw. It's connected with, helko is to drag, and the helkos is a technical term for a saw. helko here in the passive, it's going to mean covered with sores. It's only here in biblical Greek, but it does turn up in medical writings, which again ties in with the fact that Luke is believed to have been a doctor. So Lazarus, so a certain poor man by the name of Lazarus, had collapsed at his gate, covered in sores, kai epithumone, from epithumia, and desiring kortastheni, to be satisfied, from kortasdo, from that which has fallen, from the things having fallen, apotes trapezdes to plusiu, from the table of the wealthy man. Alakai hoi kunes kominoi epilekon ta helke autu, and the dogs coming. Now this is from epileko. It's cognate with our word lick, and that's what it means. So, and it's imperfect. So the dogs coming used to lick at his sores. This is that helkos connected with that verb we had up here. So it's a third declension. It's tot helkos, third declension neuter noun, and then we translated but didn't read out the autu on the next page. So his sores. Egenito de apothenein toptokon kai apeneksthenai auton hypoton angelon eston kolpon Abraham. And it came to pass that the poor man died, so in infinitive, it came to pass the poor man to die. This is the aorist passive infinitive from apophero. You get enenkon in the aorist, and the root of it is enenk, and the chi gets aspirated, the kappa gets aspirated to a chi before the thenai in the ending. So he was carried off. So it happened that the poor man died, and he was carried off hypoton angelon by the angels into the bosom of Abraham. Apethenon de kai hoplusios kai etaphe, and the wealthy man also died kai etaphe and was buried. Now that verb, if you're looking this one up, it's actually from thapto, and it's an interesting example of Grassmann's law. So when it forms the aorist passive, it would originally or properly have been etaphe. The PT turns into a phi before the theta, and the theta drops out in this this particular verb. But Greek doesn't like two aspirates together, so this one deaspirates back to a tor. It's called Grassmann's law. It typically happens in Greek, and it explains some of the irregularities. So if you're looking this verb up, you have to look up thapto, to bury. And so this is the aorist passive here. And he was buried. Kai ento hede eparas tous ophthalmos autu. Generally speaking, in the New Testament they use Gehenna, but Luke, writing presumably for a Gentile audience, uses Hades. So in Hades, who of course was originally a god, and then the place takes its name from him, as the brother of Zeus. So in Hades, eparas from epiro, raising up his eyes, hubarkon, often used of just like the verb to be, so being en basanois, being in tortures, so being in torment, we'd say, but it's actually a plural. Basanasdo is to torment, torture someone. Basanos is a torture. Horror, he saw Abraham apomacrothen. This is an old idiomatic expression. The then means from, and then we get it again with the apo. So it's from afar, from far off. But it's a slight pleonasm here because you've got apo and the old then ending. So from afar. So he saw Abraham and Lazarus in his bosoms, plural. We would say in his bosom, perhaps in his lap. And autos phonesas apen Pater Abraham, Eleison me kai pempson Lazaron hina bapse ton akron tu dactulu autu hudatos kai catapsuxe ten glosan mu hoti odunomai ente floggy taute. So he, and it's quite emphatic, having called out, he said, Father Abraham, have pity on me, have mercy on me. Elieson me, kai pempson, and send, these are both aorist imperatives, send Lazarus hina, in order that, bapse from bapto, he might dip, to akron is the top part. The Acropolis is the top city. So the akron, the tip or the top of his finger, he might dip it in water, hudatos, I've used genitive here. Kai katapsuxe, this is from katapsucho, with a kai here, which turns into a xi in the aorist subjunctive here. It simply means to cool. Psukos is a word for meaning cool or cold. So that he might cool or refresh my tongue, because odunomai from odunaamai, it's an alpha contract middle verb. Odune is a pain. Odunaamai means I am in pain. So I'm in pain, I'm in misery, in this floggy, in this flame, from flocks. If you're looking this one up, it's flocks in the nominative. Apend Abraham said, Teknon, my son, mene stheti hoti apelabes ta agatha su entotsoe su kai Lazarus homoios ta kaka. So remember that you received your good things in your life, and Lazarus homoios likewise, understood, received ta kaka, the bad things. Nun de hodi parakletai, sude odunasai, but now thus, or in this way, he is consoled, he is being consoled, it's present, but you are suffering pain, you are in pain. Kai en pasi tutois metaxu humon, hemon kai humon kasma mega esterictai, Hopos hoi thelon tes diabenai enthen pros humas me dunontai, me diacathen pros humas dia perosin. En pasitutois, it's a rather odd expression. It literally means in all these matters, but I think it's being used idiomatically here in the sense of, and in addition to. We normally use epi rather than en, but it's probably being used by epi, in addition to all these things, and so, and moreover, and besides all this, a chasma mega, a great chasm, este ricti, perfect, from ste risdo, perfect passive, has been fixed. Ste risdo is to establish something, to fix it. So a great chasm has been fixed, metaxu, between you and us. Interestingly, it's you, between us and you, I should say. Interesting, it's you plural here that's used. Has been affixed between us and you, hoppos, so that those wanting to cross from, wishing to cross there to us, may do nontai, they are not able, nor from there, nor from here to you, dia perosin, from dia perao, to cross. So nor can they cross from here to you. From to us. Sorry, from there to us. I'm going to do that bit again. That's a bit of a mess. So that those wishing to cross here to you, or there to you, they are not able, nor can they cross from there to us. Apende, but he said, Ero ta seun pater, hinapempses auton eston oikon tu patros mu. And he said, well, I ask you then, Father, that you might send him into the house of my father. Echo garpente adelphus hopus diamature taiautus hiname kaiautoi elthosen eston topon tuton tes basanu. I have 5 brothers, so that he might bear witness to them, hiname, lest, so in order that they all themselves also might not come into this place of torture, of torment. Now you'll notice that basanos, it's a second declension feminine noun. Why that one is feminine, I don't know. Normally these second declension feminine nouns have some connection back with the earth. But why basanos is feminine is, I'm not quite sure, but it is a second declension feminine noun meaning torture or torment. Lege de Abraham, and Abraham said to him, Ekusi mousia kai tus prophetas, they have Moses and the prophets. Akusatosan auton, let them hear. This is the third person plural aorist imperative. Let them hear them, and it takes a genitive. This, by the way, if you're doing the classical Greek as well, this is one of the rare instances of where the forms are quite different. In the third person imperatives are totally different in later Greek than they are in classical Greek. So this is a koine imperative, third person plural aorist imperative. So hear them, hode apen, and he said, Uki, no, pater Abram, father Abraham. Al eon tis aponekron paruthe prosautus metanoesusin. But if someone might come to them from the dead, they will repent. Apende auto, and he said to him, E mousios kaiton propheton u akuusin, udi antis eknekron anaste pes thesontai. So if they do not hear, in the sense of pay attention to, Moses and the prophets, not even if someone might rise from the dead, will they be persuaded. This is a future passive here from patho. Patho in the active means to obey, and this is just the passive. So, sorry, it means to persuade. Here, this is the passive. They will be persuaded. Patho in the middle means to obey. It's got a slightly different meaning, but this is the passive here from patho. So not even if someone might rise from the dead, will they be persuaded. And that's the end of chapter 16.